Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official console creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Egvar, and alongside me, as always, my good pal Bobby. How the heck are you this week?
Beautiful, my good sir. We're recording on a Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's a mix of rain and clouds, but the snow is gone. I feel eclectic about that. So
That's
yeah, I'm
right.
good. What about
Yeah.
you?
Feeling really good. Despite some technical issues, my camera's giving me some troubles today, but I cannot wait to talk all about Assassin's Creed Shadows because yeah, you're talking about the weather. The sun's out. I feel like I'm out of the shadows now.
That's exactly it, right? I mean, we had that disastrous snowfall that
Yep.
literally encrusted Ontario with pounds of snow, and it's like I'm done with it. But like, I think we're on the mend. Like it's supposed to be plus 17 tomorrow, so I'm
It's
here for
crazy.
the spring weather. Like everything's kind of coming at the perfect time between the weather. March is stacked with games, so like this is like the best time. So yeah,
I was about to say it's the best time, but also the worst time because I want to go outside now, and now all these games are coming out.
that's what the summer's for. Like honestly,
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
spring's you know it's when all the allergens are out. So like I can wait. I can wait till June, and then I'll be out.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But no, thank you all for tuning in. This is our Assassin's Creed Shadows review. Bobby and I have been playing it independently, going through the motions, going through it all thanks to Ubisoft. So really appreciate them getting us some access ahead of launch. So yeah, we're gonna go all the way through it, gameplay, everything. I mean, like this is in my opinion, and I think a lot of people's opinion, this is going to be one of the most anticipated Assassin's Creed games because everyone's been saying, what about feudal Japan? What about an actual, a samurai style shinobi Assassin's Creed game? So I feel like this is a really special moment for the franchise. And I mean, we're in great company talking to each other here because we are big Assassin's Creed fans. I've followed the series for a long, long time.
Yep.
So I think this is going to be a really cool conversation, despite, I don't know what you feel about the game, and I don't know if you know how I feel about the game. So this is going to be very interesting. But I
Yeah,
want to
we
throw
haven't
it to
talked
you.
about it. We haven't talked much about it just because I mean I've just been just like I don't know. I've been disconnected from the world just because I've been playing it. I don't know if
Sure.
you're the same, but like I know that everyone that has been playing it for review is basically on their own. But I mean, now like no, this is why we're doing this review. This is why we review these games. It's because we want to hear what each other think, and then pass the buck to the fan base because we want to know what they think after, right? So yeah, this is the perfect time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I think this is very interesting, but I do want to toss the buck over to you because I do want to know from a very top level perspective how much time you put into the game, if you're at the point of where you're rolling credits, and like top level just impressions of your experience with Assassin's Creed Shadow so far.
Yeah, so I mean, my clock is wrong because, and I don't know if you know this, but PlayStation's always done this thing,
Yep.
and then Steam does this thing where it tells you one time, but your in-game time is different. So like my actual time is like 45 hours. My I don't know, my other time is like 68, 70 hours. So I
Interesting.
mean, it doesn't make sense to me. I think it's just probably because sometimes I just I am guilty of leaving the game running. But yeah, top level, high level thoughts. This is I feel like the game that will make or break Ubisoft. At the same time, I feel like this is the game that's going to save them. I love this game. It's got some issues. It's got some glaring issues, but I feel like it's obviously a step in the right direction. And my controversial opinion is I feel like Ubisoft Quebec should be the lead studio for Assassin's Creed now because they've nailed it again. Yeah, I mean, what Shadows does puts Valhalla to shame. It's on par with I'd say Odyssey, Origins, maybe even Assassin's Creed 2 in terms of storytelling, gameplay mechanics, setting, of course, music, everything that makes this game a memorable experience is pretty much on point. And I mean, it's we're in Assassin's Creed feudal Japan. Like, what more could you ask for? Like that's kind of the top level thing, right? But I don't know. I'm near the end. I know I'm near the end. I know obviously we're not gonna get into spoilers, but like I've hit a point where I know it's there's no going back. I'm about to finish it tonight, and then we'll be for review or for the review period. I'm going to talk more about it next week. But yeah, I mean, like it is what I've wanted from this series for a while now. They finally nailed like the stealth aspects. The combat feels finely tuned, whereas Valhalla felt too unwieldy for me. It was too bloated in terms of world size, mini games, exploration. Like it was just too much. So going back to what I said about Ubisoft Quebec being the lead studio, they know how to put scale into a scope where it works and it doesn't feel overburdening. Yeah, that's kind of where I want to start with. It feels like it's finally the mix of the old. Like, I know I've said that with Valhalla, but the more I played it, the more I got into the expansions. It went too far to the left, and it veered in the wrong direction. But like I feel like now we're course correcting to the point where this is definitely the one game that whether you're a fan of the series or a newcomer or in the middle, like this is the one it gives you everything that the old games does really well with the new shiny coat of paint.
Yeah. As for me, I think I'm around the same ballpark in terms of hours placed in. I think the Xbox is doing a bit better of a job of knowing when you're actually playing the game and when the in-game clock kind of stops when you're when you press start and you're in a menu or something like that. So I think I'm around 45 hours. Around the same point, like I know again, without spoiling anything.
Yeah, before you dive in, I want to say like this is critical path. Like I've done obviously some side missions, exploration. There's a lot in this game. Obviously, it's not as big as Valhalla, like I said, but you can finish this game in about 45, 50 hours, I feel, without diving too deep into everything. But like I'm going to go back. So like, yeah, I just want to preface what I said with that because it is important.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I have done a ton of the interstitial stuff aside, like the side missions, the character missions, and then there is the golden path. Here are your targets. This is what you're tracking. If you're familiar with the kind of, and I'm going to put this in quotes, like the new age Assassin's Creed, you kind of understand where the game kind of goes with its core gameplay, where it is, hey, this is your character. You're going to go after this group of, they're not the Templars, but the Templar like this group that you're kind of tracking down and trying to investigate and uncover who they are, this shadowy clan almost. It's very kind of formulaic at this point.
It has to be, right? Because that's kind of like that is the bread and butter of Assassin's Creed. It's like here's the setup. You have to kill all these people.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I mean, it just seems like that is kind of the Assassin's Creed formula going forward, which I hope they maybe fix, but like I'm not gonna ding points for it
for sure. Yeah, so I'm at the end. I know this is my final target. Can wrap it up within a couple hours, and I'm sure everything that I have to say, positive and negative about this game, won't differ too much just based on that. And for me, top level, I think this is a great game that gets in the way of itself so many times that it makes it only a good game. And it hurts me to say that because I felt really burned out by Valhalla. I felt like at an all-time low coming out of that game. Mirage brought me back in. I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I want out of Assassin's Creed. I want something 30 hours. Put me back in as, a stealthy character. And to your point, I think that, coming into Shadows, you do get kind of the best of both worlds, where you have Yasuke, who is almost akin to what we've been doing with almost Odyssey and especially Valhalla, which is a more beefy character, not necessarily going with stealth. And then you have Naoe, which is the old school. Here's someone here's a character that is so riddled with stealth-based mechanics, quick on her feet. She can go and feel like light as a feather. So you kind of have the choice of playing as both of these characters and kind of get the best of both worlds. And I think from a gameplay perspective, they knock it out of the park. They gave me exactly what I wanted out of this. The setting itself is beautiful. This is what, like, I'm shocked
Yeah.
at how good this game looks coming out of Ubisoft, which I mean can make some really great games, but when you have a game that is so widespread and they almost stretch themselves a little too thin in terms of the scope of their games, where it is here's a giant map, all these assets, then kind of take a little bit of a hit because they're trying to be so ambitious. Here, I think like just the art style alone, the different changes of the season, the architecture, the weather system that works in this game, everything is so beautiful that I'm like, this is like on par with Ghost of Tsushima, just in terms of like the
The scope,
visual
yeah, the
fidelity
scope
and,
for
and the
sure.
scope and everything. And the story really resonates with me. The characters are really resonating with me. I agree with your sentiments that I feel invested in these characters the same way I did with Ezio and even Connor to a certain extent, and even like going back to the originals where I did feel myself very attached to the characters that I was following and stuff, or Odyssey with Cassandra. Again, I find myself really resonating with Naoe and Yasuke. But
Yeah.
then that being said, there always is a time when I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good about what I'm doing in the game. I'm having a lot of fun, and then something small gets in the way. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we like lacing up both of our shoes together? And I'm just tripping. I'm stumbling here because and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but yeah, there are some just glaring issues
Yeah.
that are in this game that I just cannot fathom why they're here or what the intention of having it in the game. But I feel like this is a good return to form in some ways. I think this is a great game in some ways, but then yeah, I constantly just struggle. I This is honestly one of the most difficult reviews I've kind of had to approach only because I'm so riddled with conflicting thoughts
Yeah.
and feelings about this game because I there's so much that I like about it, but then so much that I'm just like, why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
This could have been such an easy win, but yeah, I'm interested to talk more about it, but I think one of the things I think a lot of people might be interested in is kind of talking about the differentiations between Naoe and Yasuke because they play very differently. They're two very different characters with very different and diverse backgrounds. So I want to throw it back to you and just kind of talk about your experiences with both
Yeah.
characters, maybe their individual mechanics and how you feel about this.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So I mean, another preface is you play with now a pretty lengthily in the first
Oh, big time.
act. I'd say yeah. So I did split acts. That kind of took me by surprise because
Same.
it was advertised was you playing both characters equally. That's what was always told to us. That's what we were not obviously in those words, but like everything kind of was marketed like that. I played with Naoi for I think like 20 hours by herself before I
Mhm.
even got to the mission where Yasuke was
Okay.
like, well, yeah, you're gonna now play as Yasuke. I didn't necessarily hate it, but by that point, I was like, this game would have been way better if there was just Naoi.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's where I feel that's the first trip of the shoelaces.
I want to jump in here because I had the exact same experience, and one of the things everyone that's listening will experience is you get the setup, you get the kind of like the tutorial missions where you're introduced to both
Yeah,
characters, you get to play around with them, get a kind of a feel for them,
yeah,
and then all of a sudden Naue kind of just takes over the narrative. For
and
for me, it was about 10 hours,
yeah,
and Yasuke is just never really shown again. And there's a menu which kind of shows where your missions are
yeah.
and your objectives and everything.
It's
And
like
Yasuke's
it's like
face is
the
there, and the entire time I'm going through, I was like, why
how do I
can't I
get to it?
select him? Why can't I switch characters? I thought I was missing something to the point where I almost became ashamed that I didn't know. I
What
felt
how
like
to
I
do
was
it? Yeah,
missing
yeah,
something super obvious. I was like, maybe it's just, and then yeah, all of a sudden you get the mission where these characters kind of cross paths, and to your point, yeah, the game kind of sets it up. It's like, oh, this is going to be Naoe's story. This is going to be, but when Yasuke is introduced and becomes a core component of the game, they're treated as complete equals.
yeah. That's the thing. And what I feel like maybe would have benefited this game more was just put Naoi as the main character for the entire thing. We'll just play it like that. Then Yasuke introduced as like a DLC where it's his side of the
Mm.
story.
Ooh, okay.
Because like honestly, and not to knock Yasuke, I do like the character. He's actually really cool.
Yeah.
I do like what they did with his his story and all that, and how it ties into the overall arc of like the Assassins Templars. But
Mhm.
yeah, like he's marketed as he's marketed as a main character, but he feels like an afterthought in the first half of the game. And it doesn't
Eh,
make sense to me because, like I said, I played for the first like 10, 15, 20 hours. I'm like, and just like, I was like, where is this going? When is this guy showing up? Why can't I pick him? Because I mean, in my preview, they show you how to switch between the characters, and
Yep,
I never
yep,
got that. I was like, where is this? Where is this thing? And then
yep.
when I finally got to it, I'm like, well, now I got to critical path it because I was never told like there's you have to spend a lot of time with her before you can get to Yasuke, which is fine. Like I understand it, but it could have been given more of like just a heads up to the character saying like you're going to be playing Act One as this character before we introduce the next character.
And I have two kind of thoughts about it, and I wonder one, and this is completely, um, I'm theorizing here. This is skepticism 101. I
Yeah,
wonder if Yasuke was more integral into the intro and that those first like 10, 15 hours,
yeah.
but
Before
it
the
was because of the backlash.
yeah,
I do wonder if his story kind of got like they kicked the can and kind of just said, okay, we'll remove him for a bit just to kind of distance ourselves, kind of make it more of
yeah,
a now way. And I can totally understand that given the tumultuous cycle that Assassin's Creed Shadows has been in with certain bad actors
yeah,
in the community and stuff like that. But then the other part of it is I do wonder if this is just a glaring issue with the development where because you're saying you went 15 20 hours, I said 10 hours, and that includes a lot of time going through side stuff. And I do wonder if this was just going through the development and just saying, well, maybe people will get in like 5 hours if they
yeah.
just kind of because it all depends on how you're playing, what you're doing,
Exactly. That's what it comes down
how
to.
are you're exploring. So for people that are out there listening to this and want that full experience of having both characters, I would almost say just kind of ignore all the supplemental side content until you get to that mission where these two characters interact, and then you do get unlocked access to both characters. Because yeah, for me, it was glaring. 10 hours going in and not having one of the core components of the
And
game
yeah,
accessible.
and that's where and by that point for myself, I was like, well, I'd rather just play as now the entire game because like I'd become comfortable with her mechanics. Like
Yeah.
I was started. I finally nailed like the rhythm of combat with her. Like I loved what they did with the parkour with her, even though it's still not my favorite. I mean, it was hitting the stride that I needed for her. But then once you get him, it's like, well, I kind of want to go back to Naoe now because like she's just more fun to play as because he's literally just a tank. He's all he does. He's there to cause havoc, and that's kind of not what I want from this game.
See, and I find that it's so interesting because for me, as soon as I got to Yasuke, I was like, "Oh, this is my guy. This is my dude."
I do like him.
I
Like I love
love
it.
Yasuke's gameplay, and I think
He's
just
fun,
for
but
yeah, he's
like
super
you're
fun.
playing as a shinobi, right? You start as a shinobi, and like that, and like the whole thing is like
Yeah,
from the preview, like your clan is the assassins, and like you're the one who has to protect whatever this box is, whoever's inside it.
yep,
I'd rather stick with that. And then you shoehorn this guy in, and like I'm not feeling like I think that's a bad word. You put this guy into the mix, and like he doesn't fit. Like and even the color of his skin, like a big talking point. It's like
mhm.
we understand he's black, but like even if they put like a regular samurai, I don't feel like he belongs. Like I feel like if they should have stuck to the guns and done exactly what
Like an Assassin's Creed,
an
like
Assassin's
an
Creed or
assassin game.
Go
Yeah,
Tsushima, because like he doesn't play as this. I don't feel like Jin was a samurai. Like he got rid of those his roots as a samurai and he became like a shinobi ronin.
hmm,
He was like he was fast on his feet, and that's kind of how I remember it was Tsushima.
sure.
And then yeah, I don't know. It's just
See, for me at least, when I was playing Naoe, I like her.
her speed is incredible. Like
Her
she's the
speed is
fastest
incredible.
character in the entire series. I love what
I
they did
like the
with
parkour. I like her style of like being able to, do everything that you would expect an assassin to do in Assassin's Creed games. I don't like her combat as much as Yasuke's, only because you would expect they took like a weird approach to the combat where Yasuke is a tank. He's
Yep.
slow, but he's powerful. He's got huge swings. He wields like big like mallets and big like spears and stuff like that. He has a gun, a bow. Yeah, he has a lot of like big weaponry and he can take a lot of damage. Naoe, I wish she
Oh,
was
she was
treated
fragile
almost
cannon.
like a glass cannon where her speed is great. Her attacks are quick and everything, but she doesn't do a lot of damage and she takes damage way too quickly. So I feel like there's not an inherent perk or plus of using her in outright combat, but she does do the assassin thing where she, is able to go into the bushes and go prone and start crawling around, whistle, and enemy will come around the corner and she can take them out really stealthily and stuff like that.
But
And then all of the parkour stuff where she's really simple to just, run up a building, get somewhere, use her grappling hook, which I love the grappling hook and stuff like
what's
that.
amazing
She has,
is
the smoke bombs and everything.
yeah.
But every time I get into open combat with her, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like it is so tedious because of her low threshold of damage output that I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish I was playing as Yasuke right now.
But here's the thing: it forces you to play differently, and like
I
I do
know.
like that, right? So like, I mean, it's to each their own. I do like playing the tank in a lot of games, but Shadows forced me to think like an assassin. Like
Yeah.
I was crawling, I was going in water, I was using the reed to
Yes.
breathe, I
Yeah,
was
it's cool.
throwing smoke bombs, I was throwing bells, I was using the tools that a shinobi has
Yep.
to take these guys out. And like one of the first things one of my most memorable experiences was 10 hours in, like one of the first castles. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this because I don't have Yasuke.
Mhm.
I kept dying, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try something completely different. I'm gonna take my time, and I would use the shadows. I would climb with the grappling hook into the rafters. I would wait for
Yeah.
someone to drop down. I would kill them. I'd use that big weird box that's in those rooms that you can hide in.
Hide in, yeah.
Yeah, I would not. I would grab like the servants because they would rat on you. You would grab them. I would knock them out. I would hide them in the bushes.
Mhm.
I would spend like a half hour just getting from the bottom to the top without being caught, and like it was rewarding because it's like, well, yeah, she's not meant to fight people. She's a defensive fighter. She only fights when she needs to
Sure.
defend herself. She's not trying to like start fights. She's not offensive. So you have
Yeah.
to think like her. And like it changes the way I played the game. That's why it took a lot longer in that opening act, because I was like, well,
That's fair.
I have to think like her. I can't just because I would rush in. I would get hit 3 times and she's done. And then she's
Yeah.
like, well, what do I do? It's like you have to shift your perspective of how you're playing. Like it actually makes me appreciate it a little bit more. And I think that's maybe gonna ding points for a lot of people reviewing it. Is they're approaching it maybe as like a Valhalla, because Eivor was a powerhouse. Like she
Mhm.
could take on everything. And
Yep.
and we're not playing as Eivor anymore. We're playing as Naoe. She's this young woman who's trying to find out why these people killed her family and destroyed her village. And she's not an assassin. She's an assassin, but she's not a warrior. She's just a shinobi. She knows how to work with the shadows, and like that's kind of what we've always wanted, right? An
Yep.
Assassin's Creed game where you're an assassin. And
Yeah.
I feel like this is the first time it actually feels like it since Ezio's game.
Sure.
Because
No, I do agree
Connor,
with
yeah,
that.
like
Yeah.
Connor was a power. I was like that. I remember playing as Connor, and I killed like 1,000 soldiers in one spot that kept respawning, and no one could stop me. And then you
Yeah.
have Arno, who was on the cusp of the perfect mix, and then they went another direction, and then we got the Origins, and then we got Odyssey, and now we're getting. I feel like Quebec finally understood that we're at this point where the technology can give us the complete full experience of what this game was always meant to be.
Yeah. I do want to preface and let people know that are listening. Yasuke can do some
Some,
stealthy things, some, and
but like it's
I
not
think
worth
it's
doing.
so endearing though
My
that
favorite
they
is when he tries to climb buildings, and he try. It's like a little kid, like a
it's
toddler
like a
trying to
little
climb
kid.
on
And
the
he's
couch.
just like he
Yeah,
can't he
you
can't
can't do
quite
it.
reach it. Or when he does, he like, has to like because he's a big dude, he tries to like pull himself up and now he can go across like ropes that connect buildings and stuff like that. If Yasuke does it, he just breaks the rope and he falls. And
Yeah,
he's just like he's such a lumbering goon sometimes. Or if you do the leap of faith is my favorite
yeah, like
animation, I
he
think in
can't
an
do it.
Assassin's Creed game. And I'm not going to spoil it here. I just want everyone to go out, play as Yasuke, go do a leap of faith, and you'll be delighted. But I do like the fact that yeah, again, we're giving compliments to Ubisoft Quebec that they did go in and they said, okay, well, we can't just block off everything. We got to at least give him some of the traits of an assassin, even though he can go through a bush, but not very well. He's this
Yeah,
huge dude. He can do an assassination, but it's a brutal assassination. He's not scared of making noise. He'll go in and like chop a dude's head off and be like, okay, and then he'll be able to storm castle gates and like break the doors open and
yeah.
stuff like that. I find his combat so endearing, but also refreshing because it is something so drastically new that
It
has a
is.
lot of thought put into it.
What I feel like maybe would have benefited this series more in this game specifically is on the fly swapping. Like if you're infiltrating one castle, why can't I just have a like in GTA 5 where
Yeah,
it's just the wheel like that would have been way
that'd been
better
cool.
because like I could plan how I could infiltrate and invade this castle at the same time.
Sure.
And it's like that would have been the bigger benefit for this series is just being able to swap your characters on the fly. And I understand that that's probably difficult to program and get to work.
Yeah.
But it would have been probably what would have elevated this game is being able to swap between characters
It would have
to
been cool to
accommodate
see.
a situation. It would have been way
Definitely.
better, right? Because like
One of the
and
things that I really like is that when you go through the story, and again, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but they're treated as equals. Like both of them are very integral to the story once you unlock
yeah,
Yasuke.
yeah,
So they're going through tracking down these targets, going through it together. They're going through the story, and at certain points in the story, it'll present a cutscene, and at the end of the cutscene, it's like, who do you want to play as, Yasuke or Naoe? The
yeah,
thing that I really really like, and I don't know how many people are going to end up taking advantage of this in the long run and everything, but every single time it asks you that, it's not just saying, what do you want to do for this objective and who do you want to play as? They have two different objectives, I would say 80% of the time, where it is,
yeah.
if you choose Yasuke, you're going to go do something as Yasuke um, to further the story. If you play as Nawe, you're going out and doing something completely different. So depending on, which mission
Yeah.
and who you choose as, you and I probably did something completely different.
hundred
And I
percent.
I
And I
really enjoy that. I think that's such a smart use of having dual characters where it's not, well, you're gonna go infiltrate this castle anyways, so go infiltrate it either stealthily or as loud as Yasuke. It's if you're gonna go play as
yeah,
now and now maybe you're gonna go into this castle, and if you're playing as Yasuke, you might go somewhere else and go do something else. And
yeah,
then the story kind of converges into now we're gonna go assassinate this high level target.
yeah, and like and that's the thing is to the point. Like you have these characters, you have like these systems in place that are almost there. Like you have great incentive to swap between them at times
Mhm.
and then swap back, but like not in a way where like I say, it's it doesn't feel natural. Like, you have to go like through menus to figure out what goes next, and like it's just like it's just like these extra steps that take you out of the experience, right? I mean,
Right.
I know that they could have with a little bit more time have a system where it's like you said, different objectives. You get and then there could be like a wall. Like Yasuke can't get past this wall, so now he has to. It almost has to become a co-op game. I feel like it would have been so cool as a
Interesting.
co-op game, right?
Yeah.
And to bring back like Assassin's Creed Unity, they had a really cool co-op thing that they did at one point, and it never happened again. Like this would have been the perfect time where like, hey Steve, I need you to be Yasuke for me while I
Right.
climb over this wall. I'll take care of these guards and I'll let you in to continue tanking everything.
Yeah.
And I
No,
feel like
I like that.
would
Yeah.
have been the most ideal way to review this game is like you have two characters, you play as one person, I'll play the other, and then we'll converge.
Yep. Yeah. A
It's
lot of
just
cool
it's
ideas.
almost
I,
there.
I think I think some of them paid off. I think some of them were, a little misstep here and there. But overall, I do again really find both of these characters endearing. I like
and
both
that's
of
the thing.
the core mechanics, but I think you are kind of dealing with the yin and yang, so to speak, where
Yeah,
it really does come down to how you want to play and your preferences on whether or not that resonates with you in this game. Um, the other thing I think that is really important to talk about is just the sheer ambition and scope of this game, because we're both on the same kind of wavelength where
yeah,
Valhalla, that was a 120-hour game, had way too much side stuff to go do in the map, and so many different even main mission objectives that for
yeah,
me going through it, I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. Like I don't know
yeah.
what the objective is. I don't know what the story,
Yeah,
where the story's going. So I want to know, like, in terms of not necessarily spoiling the story, but in terms of just how you're going through the story, what you're doing,
yeah.
how did Shadows kind of resonate with you on that front?
I feel like this is definitely one of the higher ranked stories for myself. Like I said, it might be just below. I see Assassin's Creed 2,
Yeah.
and it hits pretty hard. Like there are some really cool stuff that happens early
Mhm,
on, and then there's some revelations entering Act 2, and then it just keeps blossoming into these really cool story beats that
mhm.
I haven't felt them in a while, and the series struggles with their stories. Some are really good, some are really bad. I mean, Origins was incredible. Odyssey was really good.
Yep.
Valhalla kind of had some stuff that I liked, but then it overall became just like this massive just blob of gameplay and story that never colluded. Like they never worked together. They just it was nothing. It wasn't cohesive. But then you have Shadows, and it's like whoa, these characters are not only well written, fully fleshed out, but their motivations are realistic. Like I understand where Now is coming from and why she's doing it. And then Yasuke, he could have been a very like jaded person. Like he was treated like crap the entire time
Yeah.
in Portugal as uh, whatever he was to the Jesuits, and then he comes to Japan, and Nobunaga's like, well, I'm gonna treat you as
I see potential in you. I'm gonna train you and unlock that potential.
exactly. And
Yeah.
then and I hate to say it, but like you see how Nobunaga treats him, and it's like, whoa, he's actually not an evil person. Like he's not a one note villain. Like
Yeah.
he did have like elements to him, and like he had depth. And then you finally see how it all comes together, and you're like, whoa, this is great. Like
Yeah.
why where has this been for the last like 3 or 4 games? Like the other games were good, but they never really reached the heights of like AC2 or even Brotherhood.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and just even by the time we
Even the
get
side characters, some of the side characters, like
sure.
there is some stuff that and I'm gonna call it Jinjiro because I love what
Yeah,
happened
little
with them and
Jinjiro.
how it reminded me of The Last Samurai. And I love The Last Samurai. I think it's one of the best Tom Cruise movies to exist.
Sure.
It has a lot of similar beats without
Yeah.
spoiling it, and it does it really well. Like
Yep.
it's not a one for one transition, but like it takes those things and it applies them in a way that makes sense to this story. And Junjiro ends up becoming one of my favorite characters. And I know everyone's like, well, he's a little chubby Asian kid or whatever, or Japanese kid. It's like no, he's a lot more than that. And like I love the fact that they put him in this situation and he becomes crucial to Naoe's character development.
Mhm.
It's like I love what they do with that relationship.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like even by the time we get towards the end of the tutorial and kind of the setup, the
Yeah,
main like crux of what's driving Naoe, I was engaged with exactly what was going on.
yep,
And yeah, to your point along the way, I think in terms of if you're critical pathing, if you're gold pathing this game, there's so much. You're talking about like the different acts and different revelations and stuff like that. It's so compelling. It does make me feel like this is one of the strongest ones.
yep.
Am a little disappointed in the way the game is set up, where it gives me similar vibes to Black Flag, where it is, hey, you're just an anonymous little thing going through the animus. Here's the setup. Boom, we're into the game.
That's what I
Like it's
didn't like.
really, and for someone who is such a core nerd about Assassin's Creed, I love the ongoing storytelling, the threads that go in between all the games. We're building out a universe. Every single time they're like, hey, we set up this universe where we set up this whole through line between Origins,
Yeah,
Odyssey, Valhalla, kind of Mirage. we're just gonna drop that and go do something else now. I'm like,
And I hate that. And I hate
we've
that thing.
spent 10 years setting something up, and now all of a sudden we're just done with it. Okay. Again,
Yeah,
maybe
after
that
and
changes. I
especially
don't know.
after what Valhalla did, like they ended on the like it's such a interesting note with what was going on with Bassam and Layla, and then you have the reader, I think his name is, which is obviously Desmond, and we don't get any of that.
But
Are you
but again,
serious?
I do want to make sure like it's very apparent for the audience. Like we have not rolled credits. We don't know where
No,
Shadows kind of falls and kind
but
of how it
there's
incorporates.
not
But
even
it's
breadcrumbs.
that's the thing. You
It's
do
like
get
the same
breadcrumbs of
breadcrumbs. Like
something going on with the animus. You do get this ethereal voice that speaks to you every so often, and there are weird like on the map you're
yeah,
interacting with the animus with these glitches and stuff like that. But it really
that's a,
doesn't feel like
we've
it's
had it
leading
before though.
towards anything.
We've had all that before though. Like
Yeah,
Unity had all that stuff.
of course.
And it
Yeah,
went nowhere. And then they rebooted it again, and then it's like you can't keep rebooting it. Like the biggest cop out this series had was A, losing the creator, and then B, killing off Desmond,
oh
because
my
Desmond
goodness.
killing off Desmond killed the series. And I'll be the first to admit it, because when AC2 hit, like it changed how I approach games, just like FF7 did when I was a kid.
Sure.
And now AC2 was the game as for me that was, I don't want to say it, like it reinvigorated my love for games, because I was at that point I was just like I wasn't playing games, like I just didn't
Mhm.
care for them at that point. And then I was like, this game, I'm gonna check it out, I'm gonna buy it. I finished it in a week, and I was like, this is like the greatest thing I've played in 15 years. And then obviously we know what happened with Brotherhood and
Yep.
Revelations, and they hit this point where they had no idea. The politics of Ubisoft killed the series. I feel, and I'm gonna say it because I feel like it is that you got rid of the one person who built this world, who knew these characters more than anybody, and then you had everyone else trying to clutch their pearls and figure out how to move forward. And like I feel like that ruined the series.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there
And
was
as
still
good as
high
Layla was, I
points.
did like Layla, right? Like, Layla was a cool
That's
character.
one.
Like, they finally had someone else who was worthy of Desmond's replacement, and then they killed her too.
Well, again, that's the thing I struggle with is because I still don't know where Shadows kind of falls and what it's trying to do by the end of the day. I do agree with a lot of your sentiments, though.
Yeah, but
The thing I do want to get back to, though, is just the sheer scope of like everything you're doing outside of
yeah.
the critical path, because
No, there is some great things there for sure.
there's some great things, but then also some really Ubisoft bloat. Here we're padding out the time and everything. Like I mentioned before, you're after this MacGuffin as Naoe and Yasuke, this box that got stolen from Naoe and
Yeah,
her village. You're after this organization, this organization of masked individuals. You're tracking each of them down, and that's great. You're investigating. You're doing that investigative assassin-y thing that you've done in Odyssey and in Valhalla and stuff like that. The issue that I find is that once you're trying to go after, I think it's 10 of them or something,
yeah,
so many times you're going through, you're doing little missions to figure out, oh, who is this person? How do I figure out where he is on the map and stuff like that? You get to another character who's like, I'll help you, but now you have to kill this other organization of 5 people. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then it
yep.
happens again, and then
It
it
keeps
happens
happening, and it
again,
was
and
like,
then
what? Like
it's like,
what?
oh, go kill these like 4 pirates. I was like, guys, we are getting like the
Yeah,
map,
like we're getting off the path.
the checker or the cork board of strings and everything that is your objective board is so comically large with different things to do that I'm just like I don't even know why I'm doing half the things anymore. Other than the core path, the supplemental things, they start popping up at such a rapid rate that I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even remember who gave me these missions and why I'm doing them, because again, all the objectives are spread across the map. So going back to like the one where you got to track down the pirates, for instance, a pirate will be up in the northeast corner and then
Yeah,
southwest and stuff like that. So it's like you might not even be able to get there until you level up and are within the level
yeah,
range of that specific area of the map and stuff like that. So I feel like, again, this is one of the issues for me, and might just be a personal preference or the way that I've been playing the game. It just feels like they just took on way too much and threw way too much at you. That
Yep.
felt kind of the same without really amplifying or elevating the core story or the core gameplay. And it kind of just it began to wear me down to a comical degree where I would open up the objective and it's like, here's another circle of targets to find. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's like you're just it's artificial playtime, and I would have rather, like I
Yes.
said, I will always advocate for the older games because they were short and like concise, and you knew what you're getting into. So like if even Shadows was like 15 hours shorter, I think it would have it would review a little bit higher. And like I know our review court is giving it actually an 8. If it was shorter out, I think it would have hit like a 9 easily.
Yeah. Yeah, because I feel like there are so many interesting things to do in the world. They introduce some like really cool little. Maybe they're tedious, or maybe they're just like because I don't know how many there are, or really what they go into in terms of the trophies or achievements. But along the way, you'll be riding on your horse, going down the path and everything, and then all of a sudden you'll get a little indicator on your compass of like, oh, there's an animal over here that as Naoe or Yasuke you can go draw, or there's little Jin statues that you can go pray at. And I feel like that's really cool because it gives you a little bit of XP and stuff like that. And it's just stuff that you can either do if you're just like passing by, but it's not an icon on the map. It's not bloating the map. It's not making it feel more congested. Whereas the objective board, I feel like there are so many little pinpoints on the
Yep.
map of like, go do this quest to unlock this other quest, to go grab this target to get back to your main target. That I'm like, I don't even know what the storyline is to get me there. I'm just trying, like, the only thing I'm compelled in is that main group of targets that I'm going after because
That's all I cared
I
about.
know what the goal is, get that box. I know what the um why they're doing it. I know the motivations of both of these characters. I know the story that's going into it. Everything else is so supplemental and kind of throwaway to me that I'm just like, I'm just doing it because the game is either telling me to, or because I just am coming across the icon and it's really close and I'm just going to bang it out in 5-10 minutes.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about kind of uh, just the world itself, because we kind of talked about, at least for me, I find it really gorgeous. I find that the traversal's really nice, just to get on a horse and go from point A to point B. But I do think that, and I want to know your opinions on this. How do you feel about the world itself? Do you feel like there's anything that could be improved?
Oh, 100%.
Okay,
And
because
it's
I want to hear your thoughts on this.
and my stuff is more I think it's more based on maybe the developer side. Like I do like the presentation. I mean obviously it's pulling inspiration, and I hate to say it, from Ghost of Tsushima, but there obviously are very
Yep.
similar things that are happening. My biggest issues were just that level of polish that was missing. There was a lot of things that I was posting in our group chat saying, oh, here are all the things that I'm seeing that are causing me to just, lose, just take me out of the experience. Like I had a lot of glitches and just like static things. Like I had an eagle caught in flight on the floor in one shrine and it wouldn't move, or like that stealth box, that big box you had,
Yeah.
like the textures kept popping in and out, or like just small things like that. But like I don't know, I overall I do like the size. Like it's not obviously the whole country of Japan.
Right.
It was a good portion of it, but like it was good. It could have been a little bit better, maybe in differentiating itself, because everything kind of looked the same at one point, and I feel like there wasn't enough verticality for me. So
Yep.
it's things
Sure.
like that. Like we're still not at that point where we're getting games like Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood or Revelations. Like I want verticality. I want to climb large buildings, or like in Notre Dame and Munich. We never get that. And there are obviously some high points, but nothing to make it feel like, this is an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah, I feel like there's a level of detail and polish here that I'm very surprised by.
Yeah,
Just
for
the
sure.
way the game looks, I am so shocked that they were able to pull this off. The shadows, the rays of light that come through when
Yeah,
it's
it looks
raining,
incredible at
some of
some
the
point.
vistas, when you're doing some of the leaps of faith and you get to the top of like a tower or on top of like a tree
Yeah.
overlooking a vista. I'm like, this is beautiful stuff. Like I've
Yeah.
never seen an Assassin's Creed game look as good as this game. Like I'm like tip of the hat, round of applause for the developers who were able to do this. What I continually get frustrated about is that they've crafted such a world that I want to look at and enjoy and
Yep.
see. I get on my horse and they have these lush forests. Your horse can't do shit getting through
The
this. It
horse
is
is probably the one thing that never got improved. I feel like that's the one element that they should
it's
have
not
focused.
even riding the horse. It's that they have these forests or, pockets of shrubbery and everything, and the horse just cannot go through it. So you have to basically go through this open world by only going down the paths.
Yep.
Like very specific, like drawn
Yep.
paths from point A to point B. There's a pathfinder feature in this. So if you are going to say, if you highlight I want to go to this tower and do the leap of faith, or if I want to go to this mission objective, you basically throw on the Pathfinder and just follow the path. Because if you don't, and you're like, I'm just going to rip straight through from point A to point B, I'm going to go through off the path and everything. You're going to hit a forest and everything, and your horse just cannot navigate between two trees for whatever reason. It's the most
Yeah.
frustrating thing I think I've seen in an open world. Where I'm like, why? If this is the case, why is this game an open world? Why give me this much space and then just waste it by not allowing me to explore it?
Yeah. Well, I will give Ubisoft some credit. They actually did mention that in the review guide, saying like the forests are sloped and like we want you to go through paths because there are things you'll come across the pathway, saying like there are missions that'll just pop up while you're
Of
going
course.
off the path, right?
Totally.
And I feel like that ties into that Pathmaker. I think it's called the Pathmaker. I think they have
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Because every time I would use that, and I did use it because like you're encouraged to. It would say like, "Here's the path. You're gonna follow these roads."
Yep.
And in the forest, like I feel like yes, there is a lot of stuff that could have been done there, like having now navigate the tree line, the treetops, fight enemies from above and drop down on them. Like that would have been really cool, but like it's very limited. Like you only get trees mostly in like castle areas or
Yep. Yep.
towns, and those are the only ones. And like it's not like I. I'll go back a couple seconds. Assassin's Creed 3 had the coolest frontier with the Connor being able to climb the
Oh
trees, and
yeah.
that was cool. Like I
That was cool
wish
as
that would have
hell.
been implemented here. Like snow on the ground, well, I'm gonna take to the treetops and I'll just navigate through the trees and like I'll get to where I need to get through the trees. And like I feel like that would be really cool.
Well, you bring up something so interesting. I think that again, so smart of this game is that they have rolling seasons. So summer will fall into fall and then winter and everything.
Yeah,
When winter shows up, I think it's one of the most interesting changes for the gameplay because you're playing as these two characters, one that's really light on their feet and one that's really heavy. And as the snow is falling, it changes how you navigate because if
yep,
you're walking through environments, you're struggling, you're taking step by step and slower to actively move around. So if you're trying to invest or infiltrate a castle or something and it's coated in a blanket of snow, it's harder to move around. I think that's brilliant in my opinion. But
and
again, that it just goes to show that they have super good ideas when it comes to certain things with the environments and the level design and stuff like that. But then, yeah, they just kind of waste half the map because all this all these forests and everything are for show. It's just like,
yeah,
hey, look at this, look at the volume of these forests, look at the volume of trees, and then you go up to it and you're like, well, I can't do anything here. There's nothing in them. There's
yeah,
nothing in the forest. There's no reason to explore them. And even if I wanted to cut through them to get to my objective faster, my horse can't take me there.
yeah. The horse would get stuck on like rocks, and I'm like,
That's what I
well, the
mean.
horse is pointless. And it's like, well, I don't need the horse. Like I will use it if I absolutely need to, but otherwise, like I'm running everywhere.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah,
it's a waste in my opinion.
that's the thing. And I feel like I hate that Ubisoft improved combat, stealth, the world, but then didn't improve the horseback or the parkour enough. Like it's improved, but it's not where it needs to be. Like I appreciate what's been improved, but like at the same time, like you guys aren't taking it seriously, and if you want to give us this open world, like at least give us the tools to explore it. Yeah, I feel like the two things that really took me out of the experience was anytime I'd have to use a horse, or if winter comes around, which I do like. Like I do like how every so often the seasons are refreshed, enemies are refreshed, and then you all like their outposts and stuff. Like that's cool, but like at least let me engage with the world how I feel like I want to, and you, especially when you've done it 10 years in the past where it was a lot more intuitive, and now it's just like you guys are like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
A little bit, yeah. Going back to a point you had earlier, where there's no area of the game that I feel like has like captured what this game is. Like there's
Yeah.
no, like you were saying, no Notre Dame, or no, like there's nothing here that's centralized for the setting that we're in, the time period we're in. All the towns, they kind of look the same. All the like, yeah, there's
Even the
nothing
villages.
that's what I mean. Like the villages, all the encampments, all the it's not like copy and paste by any
No,
means,
no,
but there's
it's not.
nothing where I'm like, oh, I loved going through this area of the map. There's nothing
Like there's
like
nothing notable.
iconic.
Like where's my Venice? Where's my Florence?
Yes,
Where's my Paris? London? Like I want something. I would kill for an Assassin's Creed where it's just not even a one-to-one scope of a town, like a city. Just give me a vertical city where it's just a town, like just one location. You can get maybe like let's say the Division. Like if you give me the Division with Assassin's Creed mechanics,
yep,
I'm so like that. That's what I want.
for sure. I agree with that. I would almost rather just be in a central,
I don't
large
need to explore a
large
whole country.
cityscape and be
Yeah,
able to do so much more in that cityscape than have an entire countryside where I'm not really doing all that much.
yeah. I'm going from horseback to a village to an outpost, and then I'm going to another story. I don't need that. Like I would
Yeah.
rather let me climb this building. Let me jump through
Go
windows.
inside.
Let
Yeah.
me go down to fire escapes. Let me climb up just like anything that's on a building. Let me climb up the pipes. Let me climb down like you know HVAC system. Let me do whatever I want. But
HVAC system.
yeah, like it doesn't even have to be exactly, but it doesn't even have to
No,
be.
yeah, yeah.
Give me like give me. I would kill like for even like if you give us like 1800s or even 1700s, like just something in like Bulgaria or Serbia or Poland. Like I would love because their towns are some of those cities are
Sure.
have some of the most iconic buildings in the world, and they're just so like inviting to like I every time I see them in like a picture, I want to climb them. And it's like why aren't we allowed to do that? Like instead we're forced to run around with their heads cut off in these games. Like there's no sense of verticality. That's why I love Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood.
Yep.
But yeah, more that's kind of my big thing is just I feel like they haven't hit their stride yet with the world yet. Like they're getting there, but it needs to be dialed back even more. I feel.
Sure. Yeah. Um, I think the last thing that I really want to touch on, I'm curious to know how much time you've kind of invested into this area of the game, is the hideout. And
Oh
in the hideout, you have
yeah,
this kind of like centralized hub where Naoe and Yasuke kind of set up shop. They have some characters there that they're inviting over to kind of strengthen their not army, but their efforts here to track down all these targets and everything. And within the hideout, you can actively build
yeah,
different buildings and upgrade your hideout. It almost reminds me of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and stuff like that, where
yeah,
you're putting resources into where you're living and stuff like that. And as you're building, these give you like back end perks and stuff like that, where for instance, if you're causing mayhem in one area of the map, you'll become wanted, and guards and stuff like that will notice you right away, and you won't really have any opportunities for stealth. So in order to kind of sideline that, you have to upgrade your hideout in order to get rid of that and stuff like that.
yeah.
So and to build your hideout around the the open world and stuff like that, you'll find, haystacks and rocks and stuff like that, which you can then collect and bring back to the hideout and use to build out your different buildings and stuff like that, like a
Yeah.
dojo and stuff. How much have you invested in this? Did you find that it added to the game, or was it kind of something you thought that you could just ignore?
So we'll start with the big question. Yes, you can ignore it if you want.
Yeah.
You don't probably shouldn't. I spent a good fair amount of time. I spent like in and out 5 or 6 hours building the hideout, and rightfully so. Right? Like you said, you get kickbacks, you get benefits if you actually invest in it. You obviously get more scouts, which are used to expand the map, find pathways for you, find missions, and the most important thing is by expanding your base, you can use scouts to they basically tag resources. So if you're in a castle and you see like a stack of wood, you can tag it and they'll bring it back for you at the end of the season. So
Yeah.
you want to be actively using your hideaway to expand it. So it's basically a building simulator. Like you have a lot of freedom. There's a lot of options. You can basically customize everything. And like I do like it. I feel like it's overwhelming if you're not someone who likes that stuff. And I mean, I can tell you that just by I reading Kortru, he didn't really engage with it.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, I did. Like I built the forge, I built the dojo, I built the study, I built stables, I built all this stuff, and I connected with like the pathways, because you can basically, like I said, you can engage with every aspect of your hideaway, and it was fun. I like it. I did notice that there was a lot of slowdown. Like the frame rate would really chug in this area, and this
Oh,
is probably
really?
the one. Yeah, for me specifically, I don't know if it's where I was playing but like I'd be running around trying to go between buildings and like delete stuff, but like and then the frame rate would just cut in half, and I don't know what
Oh,
caused it.
interesting.
But yeah, that was probably my biggest issue. Though it was hard to sometimes get involved with it just because like it would just stutter for me. But I loved it. I feel like it's probably the most in-depth editor that they've ever done for the series, and like I if this is what they're gonna do, please add it to more games. It really gives you that sense of like you're an assassin, you're building your brotherhood out. Like this is where you're going to be, having
Sure.
all your recruits living and working with you.
Yep.
And it pays off. Like every time you level up, I think it goes up to like level 10, something like that. And then every time you level up, you get new perks. Like one you might be getting more resources. As you level up, you get more scouts. Like you said, like if I think at certain levels, like your notoriety is like ignored in certain aspects. Like there's all these things that you can do. But yeah, I love it. I think it's a great addition. I wish that there was maybe just one thing where if you're someone like say Court who said he didn't like it, let them like auto customize everything. Like just press a button and it just builds something for you.
Yeah. For me, I was kind of in the middle between you and from what I'm hearing from Court, because I felt like it was something that I would be reminded of anytime there was a mission at the hideout where I was going to talk to what's his name, Genjiro, thank you. Little guy, little potato man. No, anytime I was there and interacting with him and stuff like that, I'd be like, oh yeah, I must have like a swath of items now that I can use to build out a new building and stuff like that. And it's cool because you can customize the rooftops and stuff like that. You can do
how you place things, like it's all these little things,
how you place things. You can draw like the paths in between the buildings if you want to make it like rock and stuff like that. It's interesting. Again, it's kind of like busy work and stuff like that, but I do like how there's the incentive of if you build more, if you build specific buildings, you do get little perks and everything. But then it becomes a thing of, well, now you can set up all this like side stuff that kind of like enriches and builds it out and makes it feel more alive and lived in and stuff like that, but doesn't offer anything. So it's all just customization. It's just kind of, hey, this is my hideout. I'm making it look like something that I want. I wish that there was more reason to do more than just the main buildings, like building out the dojo and the forge and stuff like that. Outside of that, I was like, I don't know why I would ever put in time to put in the paths and do all this, because it really does nothing other than this is for me and me
stuff.
Exactly. So I like it. I don't think that it changes my opinion of the game. I don't think that if you were out there and you're like, this doesn't really sound like me, and if you just go through the game and you're like, I'm gonna put the dojo here, boom, 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 and just kind of forget about it. I don't
Yeah,
think it has to look pretty. Just do it so you have like the back end perks and stuff like that,
yeah,
and then just kind of forget about it. But if you are someone that really does love base building and tailoring and building out, you want to be an assassin and build out your brotherhood and stuff like that, I guess it's cool. I think that I just wish there was a little more in there for me specifically.
yeah. Exactly. The problem is like Ubisoft hit it out of the park on the first try. Like you have Monteregione and then you go underneath, and it was perfect. Like
Oh yeah,
like how do you compare to that? Like
you
that's
can't.
kind of the gold standard, right? And then you have the Homestead, which I think was a good step forward, but then you have AC Uni's Cafe, and I was like, this is stupid. Those
I
two,
forgot about that. Yeah.
yeah, like those two games I mentioned were really cool. Like I love the Homestead because it, you recruit all these characters, and then you
Mhm.
got to learn their backstories, and you grew with them. Like
Yep.
you interact with them periodically through the season, and then ultimately the top is basically AC2 and Brotherhood, because AC2 you build towards getting the armor of Altair, and then AC Brotherhood you recruit your Brotherhood and you start building all these bases, and like there was incentive to do it. Here it's just like, well, it's just a builder. You don't really get the same feeling. I feel like it becomes overcomplicated.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Was there anything else that we have not talked about that you wanted to bring up?
No, I feel like we've covered it pretty much. Everything I was planning on saying. Oh, I have nothing else.
Yeah.
I like it. I feel like it's a good step forward. It just needs a little bit more fine tuning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Couple extra months would have saved it for sure.
Pardon me. Say that again.
A couple more extra months, just polishing it would have probably elevated a little bit more. I mean, granted, what we got is it's still pretty good. There's obviously some things that maybe like we don't feel work, but I mean, ultimately, I feel it's a good game. It is a good game.
It is. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people out there probably already have their minds made up about this game. We talked about,
Yeah,
the bad faith actors out there. This game has faced a lot of, just the toxicity within the industry that's going on right now. And I feel like no matter what, even though what we're saying is very critical, and very trying to be very transparent with our audience about things that they could have worked on and made it better and everything, I do feel like there's going to be an inherent conversation of this game is just destined to fail. I think it's been in the limelight for the wrong reasons for months and months and months, even delaying it just to polish it and stuff like that. I just don't know if that's going to be enough to fulfill what Ubisoft wants with this game. And I find that very unfortunate because, again, going back to exactly what I said at the very beginning, I think there's a great game here. I think it
yeah,
gets in its way a little too much. But that being said, I still think it's a very good game. And I do think that it is very robust and drastic improvement over Valhalla. And I
oh,
think that going through that game really hurt me and really did put a tarnish on how I felt about the franchise. Mirage brought me back in. It was a very uh, insular story, very quick and easily digestible. But I got out and I was like, okay, I feel better. I feel like I'm not hurting as much. And
yeah,
getting here,
yeah,
I'm back in. I'm still invested, still really liking the franchise as much as I did back in the day. Maybe I'm not as high on it as I was with Odyssey. I thought Odyssey was, in terms of like the new age of Assassin's Creed, the all-time high, where I was like, I am loving the scope, I'm loving the mechanics,
yeah.
everything there is great. Here I'm a little less
Well,
happy about the
here,
scope.
yeah,
But that being said, I think that they do a lot well with the characters, the setting, the gameplay, the core gameplay. I think is very, very strong. So that all being said, I think that if people have been looking forward to this game or still on the fence about this game, I
yeah.
think
Don't
I
be.
don't think I think you guys should go check it out. I think there's a lot here. It's not perfect, and I think that's the number one thing is that it's not perfect, but there's a lot to enjoy here. Just yeah, we have some issues with some of the game, but yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about Assassin's Creed coming out of
Yeah,
this coming out of
there's
Shadows.
there's a lot of like I said, there's a lot of good things. It's just there's the next game has to really nail the stuff that makes this game Assassin's Creed. Like the series needs to really harness, and like we said, the modern day is important. I feel like that needs to be implemented or finally closed off. Like you have all these elements that have been in play for at this point 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Close it off. Just close it all off. Close off all the characters that we've interacted with. Either give them a happy ending or kill them off. But like move away from that stuff or double down on it. Like I was someone who did like it and I want more of it. Like I really did wish, we got continuation of Layla or Basim, but to each their own at this point, right? So that's fine. But with Hexy, I think Hexy is the next big game. Like I really and Ubisoft is saying is that this is going to be a very big departure for what to expect with the series. I hope that they get that balance of innovation with good storytelling.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I do agree. As someone who's a big nerd about all this back end out of anime stuff, the modern day storytelling and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that being said, this has been our Assassin's Creed review, and I appreciate everyone out there for tuning in. Hopefully, you guys are feeling good about Assassin's Creed Shadows, or at least a little more excited now that it is days away from the time that you're hearing this review. Bobby, if people want to read the written review that's been written by Court Lalonde or keep up with you, the website, where can people do so?
Yeah, conceptcreatures.com. We're also on Bluesky, Threads, Instagram, any social feed, YouTube. We should have a written review out for sure, but we're gonna a video review as well. So yeah, check those all out, and give us a follow and please share our work.
Yes, it goes a long way. Please, if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with friends and all of that. And as for me, you can find me across the internet at svigvari. We're going to be talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows for sure, a little more in depth, and once the game's out there and people are joining along for the ride, I think there's still a bit more to say about the game, but feeling really good about this discussion, and I think that it went a long way to inform audiences about how we feel about it. But appreciate you all for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.